Welcome back to Bay Area Focus. Time for us to taste some amazing recipes. Food stylist, that's quite the job, and recipe developer Patty Mastraco has been in the business for nearly 30 or over 30 years. You don't look a day that we would be able to do that, but it's true. Anyway, you know how to make a good dish. You're going to be at this fantastic event coming up this weekend. It's called Eat, Drink, SF. Not this weekend, rather, but this year. But she's here with us now to show us how to make a few delicious treats. Tell us about what you're making here for us today.
Well, I am cooking with almond milk. I'm cooking with Blue Diamond Almond Breeze, and what we're trying to tell people is that you can actually cook with it. So when I ask people what they do with almond breeze or almond milk, they'll say, oh, I cook with it all the time. I put it in my coffee and I make smoothies and put it in cereal. It's like, well, that's not exactly cooking. So
it's about my type of cooking, honestly.
Well, the folks at Blue Diamond challenged me to come up with all these recipes for what we're calling our Homegrown Goodness Tour, and we're crisscrossing the country going to cities for their food festivals, and I've had to develop classic recipes for each city. So for like Atlanta, I have waffles and grits, and in Sacramento I have a pear cake, and in San Francisco, we are doing a sourdough bread and a cheese fondue made with some really nice local cheeses, and a chocolate truffle sauce, because you guys are known for chocolate as well.
This is right up our alley, I have to say. All right, so tell us about how to, especially when you're cooking with something like almond milk, is this changing the recipe?
Not really. So the main thing to remember is when a recipe calls for a cup of dairy milk, pretty much across the board you can substitute a cup of almond milk.
1-to-1.
So this is the original unsweetened, so this is the closest thing to just traditional milk. Right. There's also like a vanilla or sweetened varieties, and if you're going to put that in something like a quick bread or pancake or waffle batter, cake batter, you might want to reduce the sugar just a little bit because there is sugar in it.
Yeah, that would make
So
sense.
for our fondue, I'm starting with a bit of the original unsweetened. And then I'm using this Telemay cheese, which is a Tamales Bay cheese. It's just a really nice creamy cheese. And I'm going to melt these heat these together. And
so that's a very soft cheese.
It's a very soft cheese, and it sort of emulsifies really nice. So because it is a soft cheese. So here's another tip for fondue, which people make a mistake on often. They just take the cheese and they dump it in.
Right.
So generally what you need to do is either add some flour or some cornstarch and
mix that all around.
Mix it together. Yep. And then you're going to put it in a little at a time.
Okay, and I also want to talk about the pot that you're using as you do that.
Yeah.
This is not a fondue pot.
This is not a fondue pot. This is just a nice heavy cook pot. So you don't have to make it in a fondue pot. You can make it in a pot, and then you could serve it in this if you want. It's just you need something that's going to retain a little bit of heat.
Right, because how long could you expect that to actually stay warm?
Exactly, yeah. So something that's a heavy, like a cast iron, or this is an enamel cast iron, is going to retain the heat a lot longer. So if you don't have a fondue pot, it's a perfect way to go.
Because this is one of those things that you set out and everybody keeps dipping and dipping.
Exactly. And if you have to, you could throw it back on the cooktop for 30 seconds and heat it up a little bit. So just remember when you're making this, add it a little at a time and stir. I'm also adding some reduced vegetable stock, which is going to add a ton of flavor. So I took like about 1.5 cups and reduced it down to 1/2 cup. So it's not real watery, but you have all that flavor.
Okay.
A little bit of butter.
And you're not doing wine?
I'm not doing wine. Nope. Just keeping it clean.
Okay.
So a little bit of spicy brown mustard. It's just, everything's very easy. So all these recipes are super simple. And then what you're going to do is just cook it over low heat, just adding your cheese a little at a time, and this is what you end up with. This lovely...
It smells delicious.
Fondue. Yeah, so this is fantastic, served with our sourdough bread. So to make the sourdough bread, I made this sourdough starter.
Okay, here.
Out of the original unsweetened almond breeze again.
Okay, so and I've actually never seen what a sourdough starter looks like. So, so this is the deal. And then there's cultures in here that are old cultures.
So I created this recipe in about January or February, and this is from the original recipe that I created. So to keep it going, everybody thinks it's really difficult. It's really not. To keep it going, just either use or throw away all but about 1/2 cup, and then add flour and water back to it. And the instant you do that, it'll start bubbling and it'll get twice as big, and that means it's active and alive.
Creating its own culture.
Exactly. So instead of adding yeast to your bread recipe, which you traditionally do for a yeast bread, you add flour and water and sourdough starter and breeze. So 4 ingredients is what made the sourdough bread. So
with something like this, then you would put this in a pan and...
I keep it in the refrigerator, and then I have to feed it every 1 or 2 weeks, and that's about it.
What do you feed it?
Flour and water.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I get it.
So, and another quick tip with the sourdough bread is either cook it in a cast iron pot or a pot with a lid, or put it on a baking stone with a pan of water in the bottom.
Okay.
It needs some moisture. It needs some steam to create the beautiful traditional crust.
That's interesting. All right, and speaking of beautiful, let's talk about your dessert here.
That is another super easy recipe for, it's a chocolate truffle sauce. So essentially I took the same ingredients that are in truffles, chocolate, butter. Instead of cream, though, I used the chocolate almond breeze. So once again, I put it in a pot, cooked it really slowly, just slow so you don't want to burn your chocolate. It's 4 ingredients. I added a little vanilla, and you are good to go.
Okay.
That's that easy, yeah.
It all looks absolutely delicious. All right, Patty Mastraco, thanks for sharing all this.
Yeah.
I think our crew is going to have a feast now that the show's just about over. To get these recipes, you can log on to bluediamond.com, and if you want to see Patty at Eat Drink SF, you can log on to eatdrink-sf.com. That's it for our show this week, but thanks for joining us, and we will be back with more Bay Area focus next week. Have a good one.